FinTech is sexy, we know that. But in this panel, we're going to explore embedded insurance. Now, probably the most important question is, what is it? But the really fascinating part is that it is a $3 trillion market opportunity and how it benefits both customers and brands. Open is an InsurTech offering embedded car, home and travel insurance through leading Australian brands and platforms such as Telstra and AHM. And I want to invite Jonathan Buck and Jason Wilby from Open to please come up to the stage and join us here. Very comfy chair, grab a mic. And to help with this, one of the smartest minds in FinTech analysis, Meredith Angwin from Ernst & Young. Please come and join us. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to let them take over. Get out of the way, but please put your hands together for our fabulous panel. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. Thanks very much, Simon. Well, hi, Jason, and hi, Jonathan.
Hi, Meredith.
It's good. Well, thank you for staying. It is insurance, and I know after a banking session it might seem a little bit, well, hopefully everyone here is excited about insurance. I know I was excited about talking to Jason and Jonathan as well. So a couple of key things, firstly, and I'll introduce them briefly. So Jason and Jonathan are the co-founders and co-CEOs of Open. It was founded in 2016. Open is a global AI-powered platform that issues and manages insurance products on behalf of underwriters. And it makes insurance that's less costly and also more reliable for consumers and probably a bit sexy, as Simon just said to us. Open's technology hasn't reinvented general insurance, and it powers instant claims for car, home and travel customers. And we know these, whilst you might not know their name, though you should though, because they've been sponsoring coffee today. So if you've been out there, have a look at your coffee cup because it's sponsored by Open Insurance. So thank you for that. Everyone in the audience is very thankful for you guys for doing that. But they are powering such platforms behind Telstra and AHM Insurance. So we're here today to have a bit of a chat about how they got here, how they're actually talking to you today. And then we're going to drill into embedded insurance, what it is, talk about what it means for customers, and also then talk about how they actually work about with the partnerships, particularly as they've partnered with some major organisations. So thanks for your time. So firstly, before we get into the details, a little bit about how you got here. Like, how did you find your way here?
Sure thing. So it's not that surprising actually to hear you say, you know, not many people have heard of Open. I feel like we're somewhat a best kept secret perhaps. And yeah, this is the first foray for us to actually put ourselves out there a little bit more and sponsoring and get into the ecosystem. We started out in 2016, so we founded Open 2016. Jonathan and I met in management consulting, and we spent a lot of time in retail banking and insurance, and we sort of fell in love, not with each other, but with insurance actually. We fell in love with the idea that it's an information business. Insurance companies don't fix homes, they don't repair cars, they just need to make millions of decisions to enable others to do that. And it struck us as quite odd that as a category it was so underinvested when it came to technology. And that there were so many problems crying out to be solved. Customer experience problems, back office problems, rising cost issues, and so many opportunities for us to lean in.
Yeah, and so we asked ourselves back then, we said to ourselves, imagine a world where instead of having to go and search for insurance when we needed it, imagine that it was just there for us when we were buying a home or renting one, or if we're buying a car, perhaps we're arriving at an airport or landing in a new country, insurance would just be there ready for us, pulling data from our existing service providers, personalised for us so it was the right cover at the right price. And imagine once I had this policy, as things change in the future, it updated automatically for me. So for example, maybe you'd buy a new piece of technology or a painting for your home, it would automatically be added to your home insurance policy. Or perhaps, very unlikely this, but perhaps a global pandemic might come along, and you only drive 10% as far as you thought you were going to drive, and automatically your car insurance refunded you a big portion of your premium. And then sometimes, in unfortunate circumstances, claims, you might have to claim. And perhaps it's just as easy to log on, answer a few questions, and unless something's particularly unusual, an automatic approval might happen. And that's embedded insurance, and that is what Open is enabling today.
Right. So, well, I think you have. So there we are. There's a definition of embedded insurance. I think we described the market about 3 trillion in terms of the market. So the market size is immense. When you actually look at, and you've spoken about the role of data, I mean, what do you see the emerging opportunities? You've spoken about some of them. What do you see the emerging opportunities as you completely envisage where you're going to go?
Yeah, I mean, with respect to connected insurance and APIs enabling businesses which have data to share them with us, we're really at the very beginning. But, you know, just some of the examples I gave, for example, when it comes to buying insurance, lots of you're getting a mortgage, for example. The mortgage broker or mortgage provider has all the information that we need as an insurance company to provide you with a policy. So no need to put it in again, just share it very securely and we can provide insurance. In the future, you land in a new country and instead of, as well as getting a text message saying roaming's been activated, your travel insurance has been activated as well. And the sky's the limit. So the more we can prove to customers that it's a secure and a safe way for them to share data from their existing service providers with their insurance, because it makes sense for them, the more personalised, the more up-to-date, the more simple it becomes for you to manage your insurance. And I'm sure everyone would agree that it's a good thing if you have to spend as little time as possible managing your insurance.
I'm sure everyone does around that. You've touched there on data, and we've heard a lot today, as we continue to do, about CDR and the importance of open banking in other areas. So without going into details, what's the importance of where you see this playing out within the embedded insurance, open insurance space around data and data policy?
I think there's two kind of key problems to solve in insurance. Again, every consumer, no one wants to, Jonathan said no one wants to think about it any longer than they need to, and certainly no one wants to pay any more than they need to. It's a product that no one really sort of says, hey, I want to spend more on insurance this year. And so I think all of the sort of data opportunities are, coalesce, I guess, to help us and others solve those problems in the category. So, as Jonathan described, their data is an enormous opportunity to be able to generate pricing advantages, but also customer experience and solving problems around complexity, maintaining, managing, buying insurance products. And I think as we see the CDR sort of play out, there's a lot of hype and conversation, I guess, in terms of how that can play out for lending and retail banking. It feels as though we are only just scratching the surface in terms of how we can start to apply that to insurance.
Yeah, and I'll add that here in Australia, a bit like in banking, as we heard just before, there's an oligopoly or a duopoly really in terms of a big proportion of the market being controlled by two big insurers, and that's For customers, we want more competition and the ability, all the power really is held by the insurers with all the data that they hold. And so the parallels with open banking and in that space, we would love a world where it's the consumer that owns their insurance data and can make it available to a new insurer for their own benefit. And that's what we'd like to see moving forward.
Yeah, so I think, there are, as CDR, not just open banking, but CDR progresses, I think when we're starting, because the consumer is at the centre of that, so I think we'll start to see more opportunities open up. I must admit, when I met you before, I did admit that I didn't know much about embedded insurance coming out of banking. But who else? Obviously there's yourselves, but what else is happening out in the world of embedded insurance? A little bit around just to educate everyone here a little bit more around who else is working in the industry.
Sure, I think embedded insurance feels like a fairly new category. Embedded finance is something that was sort of peaking at the end of 2020, I think, in terms of share of voice and things on the net. So it's a new space, and it seems to mean different things in different contexts. I think the broader embedded finance play is more mature and starting to be a bit more well understood. There's brilliant examples, people like Rails Bank, who we co-hosted an event with recently. They're in the UK and Europe, and making it possible to embed consumer retail banking experiences and card issuing and a whole bunch of different things. And so I think that area is much more involved. I think coming back to embedded insurance, I guess the fact that we started off with this thesis in 2016, which is insurance is an information business. we see embedded it's a logical step for insurance because it's all about enriching it with data and solving customer experience problems and bringing insurance to customers where it makes sense. It feels to us somewhat like we're at the forefront of that, and we've been quietly sort of beavering away on this strategy and this goal and I guess this thesis for 5 years, and there aren't too many people in our space. There aren't too many people that are always that interested in insurance. So I mean, sometimes that's also helpful. But to us, certainly it's exciting, the value we can create for consumers. And we'd be excited to see more people coming into the space and making it sharper as well.
So for those of us, I'm sure everyone here, we all buy insurance. It's quite low touch. I mean, as you said, it's something that I don't necessarily want to wake up and think too much about. So what do you think, and we've talked about some of the use cases around those sorts of areas, what do you really think a great experience would look like for your consumers around that? So I think that's one of the key areas.
I think one of the biggest problems to solve in insurance is we've often sort of talk about trust as a category and this idea that insurers are not that well trusted. And I think a lot of the time what people are really describing there is actually their experience and their relationship with insurers is one that's kind of become defined by a sort of a problem around reliability. So it's quite often hard to deal with an insurance company. It's quite often hard to understand how an insurer is going to deal with you come claims time. It feels a bit scary when you're buying the product because you're not sure if you're getting the right product. The number of times, we've been getting into market for 5 years now. We've over 60,000 policies under our belt, I guess, is in terms of our experience. We haven't got everything right, and we haven't solved every problem, but we've learned deeply a lot about many of those customer experience problems, and complexity and a sense of unreliability is something that clearly seems to define the category. And so for us, when we focus on customer experience, how do we reduce effort, and how do we make it as reliable as possible? And reducing effort by the buzzword of personalization, that's really what that's about. How can we pre-configure products for customers, take away the paradox of choice, give presets that are meaningful and personalized to customers? That's the focus. That's why we want to embed and access data to solve that problem and reduce the effort for customers on sign-up. The second thing is ensuring that the products are reliable. How do we keep them up to date? Customers don't want to think about it. They don't want to sit there every year and go through an inventory of their home and work out what they should and shouldn't be adding to their home insurance. So how do we work with partners who can provide that data and have policies automatically update? And of course, then there's the claims experience too. How do we build products that can be codified? We talk about it being codified and programmable so that the claims experience works like clockwork. Why is it so? Why would I have to speak to somebody and plead my case and make it feel like, feel as though I've got to, I'm on trial when there's a contract that can be executed online and car repairs authorized, travel, medical bills paid. And we've been doing that for years now, and we're just incrementally getting slightly better and better at that.
And then the one last piece is making it super, super easy for businesses to embed these great customer experiences that Jason described in their own customer experiences, in line with where their customers are, so they can offer fantastic insurance that's low effort, low cost, and high comprehension without, with just a few lines of code, really.
So, well, that leads me into partnerships. So you've been able to partner with some major organisations. What's been the experience of what do you see as the partnership journey, and what have you learnt through that journey particularly? Because it's obviously key to it's a key part of who you are as a business.
Absolutely, we can talk about embedded insurance all day long, but if we can't actually embed it, we're going to be quite limited, I guess. And so, you talk about just the word learning there. We are really a small team. We're about 50 people today, and so we did. We've been growing since 2016. We bootstrapped for a long time. Airtree came on board with us in the Series A in 2018. And we've got a culture that is very much focused on solving problems, like learning, solving problems, and sort of approaching everything as though it's a new problem set to solve and an opportunity to learn. And we've taken that same approach with partnerships. I mean, we're very fortunate. Over the last 12 months, we've two major, I guess, sort of big-scale partnerships that we've been working on and brought to market. Two very different opportunities. We launched earlier this year with Telstra, which was really exciting. Exciting for us in particular because we have this view that telco and insurance should go hand in hand, and we're waiting for the rest of the world to sort of see that opportunity. But it's a really interesting partnership. Telstra is not a financial services business and largely doesn't want to be one. So it's been a really interesting opportunity for us to work out how do we create value together with insurance, making insurance available to Telstra customers, for example, when they're initiating a broadband or a home move. How do we work with them in a way that enables us to create value around car insurance and travel insurance as well? So we've approached that very much through a customer-centered design process of looking at how do we bring the two capabilities that that we and they have, and designing unique propositions and experiences. And it's something that will continue to evolve. It's not a partnership that's sort of done and then we move on. It's something that will very much continue to evolve. And you can contrast that with AHM, for example, who is already a financial services business, a very large and brilliant health insurer. And for them, it was a very different opportunity to enable them to look after more broader customer needs and extend beyond health insurance into car and home. And so, quite different partnerships actually for us. They're both large, both very, very successful, and both partners, I guess, share one common goal, which is looking after the customer and creating genuine customer value. But very different. We've had to sort of work out very different ways of working, and also how do we develop different propositions in each case as well.
I'll get everyone on notice here if you've got questions, because I've got a couple more, but I thought we'll see if anyone would like to ask questions in a moment. I think when you've talked about partnerships, you've obviously partnered. What sort of other areas are you, without giving away, but what are the key? What's on the horizon when you start thinking about where else you could go in terms of from a business perspective?
There are sort of 6 areas that we're prioritising. One being utilities, so obviously with Telstra, but also with energy and other providers in that space, because the same sort of customer relationship goes hand in hand and makes a lot of sense. And then already we're embedded, I checked the number this morning actually, we're embedded already with 94 partners. So the 2 that we've heard about, just they're the biggest, but there's a long list. In the home buying space, so with mortgage providers and lenders, it's a very big space for us, and that's going to grow heavily over the next few months. And in the same way as lending on homes, we also have car lenders, because we sell car insurance, and so everyone needs car insurance pretty much. And so getting ourselves embedded in that ecosystem, we've already made some good inroads there as well. COVID has obviously paused travel. But we're very much looking forward to switching that on when things get back to a new normal.
Could get quite busy too.
Probably. People are itching, aren't they? We've talked a little bit already about that, but we're very excited about switching our travel insurance back on and embedding that and connecting that with a number of providers in that space. And there's a few others, but we're very, very focused on the 6 verticals, and good headway so far.
Jason.
And I guess the other big partnership for us is underwriters, right? We work with an insurer, so we're here in Australia, we sell car, home, travel insurance. We issue those products on behalf of Hollard. We're about to, next week, pretty exciting, we launch in New Zealand, and we'll be announcing our underwriter in New Zealand as well, and we continue to work to get into the UK and other markets. And so I think one of the key partnerships for us is an underwriting partnership. It was interesting listening to Judo earlier. We've had to learn over the last 5 years, not just how to solve customer problems, but also how to ensure that we deliver underwriting margin for underwriting partners. Insurance is a unique category where you're issuing products and you don't actually know what your cost of goods are, and so you could be selling $1 for 70 cents quite frequently. And we've had to get good at that over the last 5 years, and that's just a really important partnership that we've had to develop and work out how to manage. I think one of the cool things about that is if you're a FinTech or an InsurTech, we've solved a lot of that connectivity and some of the licensing issues around working with insurers. And so we are now very much focused about opening up our platform for others to innovate around. We're not going to solve every customer experience problem there is. And so we've got connectivity with underwriters in Australia, in New Zealand, and soon to be in the UK as well. I think I'll be making this, and we will, and Nicole from our team will be doing a lot of work on this, but we will be opening up our doors and opening up our APIs so that other third-party developers can build and innovate around some of those core capabilities as well.
Well, that's great. And you have, as you said, you've learnt a lot about partnerships on both sides of the equation. I think that's really important. I'm going to ask now in the last if there's questions out there. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, please, over here. Thanks, Art. Here we are. Art's doing a great job of traversing this very large room today. And we'll go after that to Charlotte, isn't it? Yeah. Charmaine, sorry. My apologies.
Hi guys, Andrew here from LexisNexis Risk. Just curious about how do you guys handle the sheer amounts of PII data you would have, inflows and outflows, I guess. Surely that'd be pretty difficult to manage that sheer amount of personal data. And you guys, you did mention about security, making the customer feel secure too.
Sure. I mean, we are regulated as an AFSL holder in our own right, so we have a lot of obligations to manage PII flowing in and out. And how do we do it? I guess I'd say we do it well. It's a key focus for this. And it's a challenge of most fintechs, I think, is trying to have compliance and security that's right, that's fit for scale as you continue to grow and scale up. It's complicated and onerous and resource intensive, and I think as we grow, it's an area that we'll continue to invest in. But I think in part, us solving those problems is great because it enables other people in the ecosystem to innovate with us. We take on a lot of that complexity, and then we can enable others to distribute insurance and other products around us as well.
Charmian Holmes from the Fold Legal. Just have a question for you about disruption in the insurance industry. There hasn't been any really black swan moment for insurance yet, and I think it's still ripe for disruption. Where do you think the distribution chain and the value chain is going to be disrupted the most?
It's a good question. I guess yes. I guess, yeah, our view is, on the one hand, your insurance has not changed very much in 200 years, right? You get for the most part, the sort of product constructs and the flow of capital is very, very similar. I think in the near term, we are taking a big bet on distribution and solving customer experience issues with greater connectivity. This idea of us becoming we'd love to become more of a ubiquitous platform that's connecting capital that sits with reinsurers and insurers in smarter ways with consumers to solve those problems. I think that the next obvious trend, though, is what does it mean when we start to play out decentralized finance as well and access to different sources of capital? I think that's probably we're probably getting a little bit ahead of ourselves there, but those are the two trends that we think a lot about.
Okay. Well, are there any more questions? Oh, there we are. I think we've got time for one more. So thank you. In the middle here, Art. Just here, this gentleman here.
Yeah, hi. Just can you talk a bit more about the utility partnership? How does that work? Is that someone moves a utility account across and therefore they're a candidate for home insurance, or how does that work?
Utility companies?
Yeah.
Well, so I think what I was referring to was that as a consumer, it might be simpler for me to have fewer relationships with fewer providers. And a utility provider like a telco or a gas or electricity provider already knows where I live and information about me, and can therefore bolt on insurance because it's a similar sort of monthly or annual product. But they also know when I'm moving home. They also know information through potentially having a connected home that can then feed my home insurance policy and keep it up to date, monitor energy usage or water usage, for example, and alert for a potential leak before the ceiling falls through. And other interesting applications when more data becomes available on that home. And the same for cars too. All
right, well, Jason, Jonathan, thank you very much. Great to hear about and learn more about your journey as Open. And thank you very much. And would you join me in thanking both Jason and Jonathan today? Thanks very much.
Meredith. Thank you very much.
And a massive thanks to Meredith.